Hi, I'm Fazia Costi. I'm the owner of 54 Media Group. It is my honor to present to you the Focus on Success Summit 2024. We have an amazing lineup for you, and we hope that you enjoy each and every one of our presentations. Thank you for joining us.
We're going to start with an exercise. You can grab a piece of paper and do this, or just use an imaginary paper in your mind. Split that paper in half. On one side, write best leader I've had. And on the other side, write worst leader I've had. Now envision that best leader. I want you to write down or think through these questions. Why were they my best leader? What was it about their leadership style that made me want to work hard for them? How did they make me feel? What did I learn from them? Now I want you to envision the worst leader. Why were they my worst leader? What was it about their leadership style that didn't work for me? How did they make me feel? What did I learn from them? When we are genuinely the leaders that others want to follow, we resemble the leader, but that best leader that you've ever had. And that's our goal. We want our team members to describe us as the best leader they've had. We want them to feel the same positive emotions our best leader evoked in us. And we want them to never feel the negative emotions our worst leader evoked in us. We want our teams to look engaged, meaning they're excited to come to work. They consistently show up. They get the Sunday joys instead of the Sunday blues. They learn, grow, perform. At the end of the day, they produce positive results for the team and the organization. We see effective collaboration. They work productively together and are cohesive. They make mistakes and share their learning from those mistakes. They lean into support from each other and show appreciation to their work colleagues. Our teams are resilient. They bounce back and navigate through challenging, ambiguous, volatile, and uncertain times. They don't show up well when times are good. They don't just show up then. They also maintain that same level of effectiveness during tough times. They focus on the job that needs to get done, and they go above and beyond on a consistent basis. During my career, I've had wonderful leaders that have changed the trajectory of my career. And I've had unhealthy leaders that made me want to run for the hills. I've seen firsthand how strengthening engagement, collaboration, and resilience in teams can transform organizations. To guide you through such a team, let me introduce myself. My name is Jen Recla. I've worked in leadership for almost 15 years in the healthcare, nonprofit, and public sector spaces. And for the past 12 years, I've worked in learning and organizational development, spending majority of that time leading the learning function, coaching, mentoring, and helping to facilitate teams through culture work. I am currently a leadership coach, trainer, and consultant with my own practice, Recla Coaching and Consulting. And if you'd like to connect with me, I put some contact information at the end of this video. I'm excited to share insights and strategies with you today to help you become the leader your team wants to follow. In my experience leading teams and pulling from best practices in the talent development world, there are 3 keys to leading your team successfully. Embrace a people-first mentality that prioritizes empathy, trust, and authentic connections. Learn how to cultivate a growth mindset, fostering an environment of continuous learning and resilience. Adopt a strengths-based approach, emphasizing the importance of leveraging individual and team strengths to drive success. By the end of our time together, you'll be equipped with specific actionable strategies to inspire and empower your team, creating a dynamic and positive workplace culture. Let's dive into what it means to have a people-first mentality. This is my family. I would like to think that we're always this happy and I'm always showing up as the best mom, but I know that that is not reality. And I'm going to share an example of where I didn't really have a people first mentality with my family. So my husband's out of town and I just got the kids ready for school. This was a couple of years ago, so they were a little bit younger than this picture. And we got done early. I had about 20 minutes before the daycare and school opened, and the kids were playing really nicely in their playroom. And I thought, okay, I have 20 minutes. What do I want to do? Do I want to clean a little bit? Do I want to sit and relax, maybe read a book? Oh, you know what? I could get a head start on my workday. I'm not doing anything, just looking through my emails, looking at my calendar, getting myself organized for the day. So I went up to my office and did that. Started to open my calendar, open my emails. And you know what happens when you start opening your emails, even if you don't have the intent to respond, it's hard not to. And I was in the middle of responding to one of those emails when I heard the pitter patter of tiny feet coming down the hall and into my office. What are you doing, mommy? Let's play, mommy. Oh, I'm just trying to get this last email out. So I'm typing. The kids are asking me questions. They're giggling. They're playing together. They're climbing all over my chair, bumping into me, trying to type on the keyboard. And I can feel myself getting more and more frustrated. I just need 2 more minutes just to get this email out. And I lost my temper. I lost my cool, stood up, I yelled at them, raised my voice, and I stomped my feet. And in that moment, they looked at me and they burst out laughing because of how ridiculous mommy was being in that moment. I realized when they laughed, thank goodness, that broke the mood that I was in. And I realized I was not in a people first mentality. I was looking at those tiny humans like they were barriers. My mindset was not in a helpful space. And our mindsets drive everything we do. They are the lens with which we view the world. They drive our behavior, our actions, and our results. And they're often hidden. We don't even know sometimes that we have a certain mindset. It's kind of below the surface. In that situation, I most definitely had what the Arbinger Institute calls an inward mindset. I was looking at my kids like they were obstacles to overcome. I was not treating them as relevant, tiny humans. I was not recognizing the humanity of them in that moment. And the core, really, of an inward mindset is it's about getting ahead, no matter the cost. With an outward mindset, again, this is part of the Arbinger Institute's work, the outward mindset, the core of that to see the humanity in others. The desire is to lift others. It is all about collaboration and engagement and innovation. When you have an outward mindset, you are prioritizing others' wants and needs as equally important as our own. And it's an important distinction because outward mindset is not meant to be a self sacrificing mindset. I am honoring that you have needs and objectives and challenges that are just as important as ours. And this, you're really seeing and valuing others. You're believing that people are doing the best they can. This is a way to practice empathy. You're seeking to understand others first and see the best in others. It's a willingness to put the betterment of others before yourself, aiming to lift and add value, and finding a way to come together collectively for a common goal or a common purpose or a common path. And it really believes in the progress of us, not just I. Versus the inward mindset, this puts us more in tunnel vision and silos, and there's blame. You're prioritizing your own needs first. That's what I was doing in that moment with my children. Quick to be critical, underestimate the good in others. You're driven by this need to get ahead and be valued by others, sometimes at the cost of relationships. And there's this fear of missing out or falling behind, which is often what leads to those more self-centered actions. So inward mindset is more about I, outward mindset is more about we, and you're in that people first mentality. We're on a continuum between these two mindsets. And our goal is to shift more towards that outward mindset, fostering a more inclusive and effective leadership approach for our teams. So here's an exercise for you. Think about a time when someone treated you with an inward mindset. Someone was treating you like you're a barrier or an object. What did it feel like? And how did this impact you? And then think about a time when someone treated you with an outward mindset. What did that feel like? And how did that impact you? Remembering and reflecting on those situations, how you felt in the impact in the inward mindset, and how you felt in the impact in an outward mindset. Those are good things to remember and hold on to, because those feelings, you have the power to do that to someone else, right? When you think about a time where you were treated with an inward mindset, oh, it hurts. And then to think that you might be doing that to others, it's a powerful motivator to remember then those times where people really recognized the humanity, had that people first mentality. Maybe it was that best leader that you've ever had and the way that made you feel. You have the power to do that for the people that are on your team that you lead. So, coming back to my story, I'm in that moment where I was angry, the kids are laughing. And then the first step was for me to see them, see their needs, see their objectives, see their challenges. They're young. They have a few minutes with mommy before they go to school. They love their mommy. They just want to play. And in that moment, I thought, what must it be like to be them? How might I show up differently if I were to think about their needs and my needs? Because I have a need for play too. And I love those kids too. And so then I adjusted my efforts. In that moment, I decided, you know what? This is what they need, play. I need a little bit of that before the workday as well. So I got down on the floor and I started tickling them, and we laughed together and we joked together, and then measuring impact. Then after we laughed for a little bit, I checked in with them and I said, hey, mommy didn't show up the best there. Now, they thought I was being silly and they laughed about it. I apologized, and I know moving forward that I'm going to continue to check in with those little humans to see how mommy's doing and how she can do better. And this model, see others, adjust efforts, measure impact. This is one way to move out of that inward mindset towards an outward mindset. This is from the Arbinger Institute, and an acronym, easy to remember, SAM. So, how does this translate to a professional setting? Think about someone that maybe you're in conflict with right now. Could be someone on your team, could be a colleague, could even be your leader. Am I seeing this individual as a person or an object? What could I better do to recognize their needs, objectives, and challenges? How might I adjust my efforts and how I approach this person moving forward? And then how am I going to measure impact with that individual moving forward? What is that feedback loop going to look like? So there's continuous feedback going back and forth between me and this individual. This is a great exercise for you to do. This is a great exercise to coach individual team members through as well if they're struggling with someone. Now, I want to bring this back to some recent data, because this is what really helped to motivate me even more in this space. Because not only do I think having a people first mentality is the right thing to do, there's data to back it up that it leads to higher engagement and better performance. So this is a 2024 global culture study. And in this particular piece, they talked about this concept of practical empathy. It's not just me putting myself in your shoes and listening to understand, but also taking action as a result of that listening and understanding and having genuine concern for the person. So for empathy, for a people first mentality to be really effective, it also needs to include some supportive action. This could be I'm offering more flexibility in their role. I'm giving them a stronger voice or more autonomy. I'm connecting them with some additional resources, or I'm just providing some helpful problem solving. So this idea of practical empathy is empathy plus action. It doesn't always entail an immediate solution, but it must both must validate the feeling and address the problem. And when we do that, look at the odds of higher engagement, more of a sense of fulfillment at work, a sense of belonging, strong connection to the organization, and being promoter. So that's powerful data that really speaks to not just that people first mentality, the listening to understand, but moving towards action as well. So what are some actionable strategies to help you shift towards that outward mindset? We talked about the see others, adjust efforts, and measure impact model from the Arbinger Institute. Also, taking care of yourself. When I think back to that situation with my children, I was not. I was not engaging in real self care. And this goes beyond chocolate and bubble baths and taking a few moments to yourself. One of the biggest parts of real self care is boundaries, having some healthy boundaries. And I have a boundary to not start the workday too early in the morning. And that when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. I'm not also trying to engage in work. So establishing some real healthy boundaries, establishing some real self-care, those things that are recharging, that provide you with renewal, because you need to be your best self to be able to step into this people first space. And there's a great book that I recommend that's called Real Self-Care. It's by Pooja Lakshman, and I highly recommend reading that book. And then the last is to have some rituals with your team, some things that are part of your team culture. It could be that each team meeting, you start off with some icebreaker questions. Brene Brown has great rapid fire questions. Or there's some kind of check-in. We, in a previous role that I was in, we would have a quick check-in at the beginning of each meeting. How are you feeling? What's your big goal for the week? And is there anything I can do to support you? Maybe that's a ritual that you start. Or celebration Fridays, where every Friday the team shares all the accomplishments, where they made progress for the week, all the wins for the week. Or thankful Thursdays, where you're giving kudos to each other, having one-on-ones, and perhaps there's some agenda or question that you ask at each one-on-one. When you show up for a team presentation together, you all wear the same color, or you have a monthly lunch or potluck or happy hour that you get together and you don't talk about work for a bit. So having team rituals also promotes that people first mentality, that outward mindset. So having that builds a foundation of trust. It's the starting point for empathy, trust, authentic connections, helping to build meaningful relationships. When people believe you care about them, they are naturally more motivated to work harder for you. Let's step into the next key, cultivating a growth mindset. This fosters an environment of continuous learning, innovation, and resilience. Well, I've been familiar with the concept of a growth mindset for years. I didn't fully comprehend its depth. Initially, I believed my love for learning was evidence enough of possessing one. However, a growth mindset goes beyond mere enthusiasm for learning. It's about embracing challenges, viewing failure as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock, and continually developing one's skills and intelligence. It involves being comfortable with failure, accepting imperfections, and embracing the journey of continuous improvement. And I want to share an example of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And we're going to start with Michael Jordan and a growth mindset. So, what does this look like? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Michael Jordan, he was cut from his high school basketball team, and he used that to motivate himself to improve. He followed a rigorous practice routine. He'd analyze his mistakes, make adjustments, and then he would come back stronger. He also played professional baseball, and he'd never played that professionally before. Then, when he returned to basketball, there was a lot of chatter about how great he is. They're so glad he's back. They were praising him. He said it felt almost like a cult or something, how much praise he was getting, and that it was embarrassing. I'm a human being just like everyone else, is what he said. He's a person who struggled and grown, not someone better than everyone else. So, great example of a growth mindset. On the other side of the continuum, we have John McEnroy, tennis player. This is an example of a fixed mindset. So, John McEnroy, he was known for his on court tantrums and outbursts. There was a resistance to adapt to any situation. He was difficult to coach. He relied on natural talent and instincts rather than incorporating advice from a coach. He retired early and probably didn't get to be as great as he could have been had he not stepped more into a growth mindset. Another example of how this fixed mindset showed up in him was when he would lose a match, he would blame everything and everyone else. I had a backache. The tabloids were distracting me. I wasn't in love. I ate too close to the match. I'm too chunky right now. I'm too thin right now. It's too cold, too hot. I didn't train enough. I trained too much. There was a cameraman who took off their headset and there was a noise coming from that, and that distracted me. Now, what's interesting about his story is later on in life, he exhibited more of a growth mindset when he transitioned to tennis commentating. So it just goes to show that this is something that we can cultivate, we can nurture, we can grow over time. And I'd love for you to do your own quick assessment. I'm going to show a few different statements, and I want you to take a look at them and say, do I lean more towards this? I'm either good at it or I'm not. See, more than half of the time leaning more towards I can learn anything I want to. Which one resonates more with you? Do you resonate more with when I'm frustrated, I give up? Or when I'm frustrated, I persevere? I don't like to be challenged. I want to challenge myself. When I fail, I'm not good. When I fail, I learn. Tell me I'm smart. Tell me I try hard. If you succeed, I feel threatened. If you succeed, I'm inspired. My abilities determine everything. My effort and attitude determine everything. Now, if you leaned more on the right side of those statements, I tend to resonate a little bit more with those. That's more of a fixed mindset. If you tended to resonate more on the left side, that's more of a growth mindset. And there's no judgment either way that you shifted. We're all on a continuum and we shift back and forth between these. It is good for us to understand which way might we lean so we know where we might need to put more of our efforts, our development efforts as a leader. And so just to give you a general idea of both of these concepts, the core of a fixed mindset is I don't want to fail. I want to look good. The core of a growth mindset is this openness to failure. It is about learning and growing. And this idea, there's a book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. Highly recommend if you want to dig more into this topic. And she really coined this term and researched how having a growth mindset leads to better performance. It leads to more growth. It leads to higher innovation. And in a growth mindset, it's really this belief that your abilities, your intelligence can be developed through dedication, effort, and continuous learning. Everyone can change and grow through application and experience. We're in control of our skills and they can be developed and improved. A fixed mindset, this assumes that abilities are static and that individuals have a certain level of intelligence or talent. We have what we have, can't change, either born with it or not. I can't be a leader. I'm not good with change. I can't learn new technology. When we step into, when we lean in, we cultivate that growth mindset, I'd mentioned that it promotes innovation. It promotes innovation because it encourages others to take risks, to explore new ideas, and then learn from mistakes that have happened. It creates this environment where people use those mistakes and setbacks as a way to learn and grow. It fosters collaboration, it fosters teamwork. And employees with a growth mindset, they are more likely to seek feedback, learn from others, and embrace diverse perspectives. This leads to better problem solving, enhanced communication, and the creation of a more supportive and inclusive work environment. And you, as a leader, play such an important role in cultivating this for your teams. Leading by example, demonstrating a willingness to learn, adapt, and improve. You can promote this mindset by providing opportunities for people to learn, offering feedback, encouraging continuous learning from your team. And to do this, providing a culture of feedback and recognition, encouraging employees to set challenging goals and stretch their abilities. Those are all ways to cultivate it. And some very specific strategies that you can try: admitting mistakes. So taking time to share lessons learned. This allows team members to see we're human we all make mistakes, and how we can turn those challenging situations, those setbacks, into a way to continue to grow, to continue to get better. When they see you admit those mistakes, it demonstrates vulnerability. That vulnerability then encourages others to do the same. So think about this for yourself. How are you doing that right now? How are you creating space to share mistakes, to share lessons learned? Feedback. Creating an environment of feedback is so important. And where I would suggest that you start is in the accepting feedback space, asking individuals for feedback on a regular basis. Maybe you choose a question that you want to focus on once a quarter and you get feedback from your team and your colleagues. Now, what's so important with collecting that feedback is to then thank individuals for sharing it with you and circle back. Here's what I've taken from that feedback, and here's how I'm improving. So I'd really like you to continue to give me feedback as I'm making those shifts and changes where I can continue to get better. And then role modeling, right? So if we want our employees, our teams to learn, we need to take that investment for ourselves as well. So it could be that you're teaching back something like this. Maybe you take the concepts from this session and you teach back to your team. Or if you have a coach or a mentor, share some lessons learned that you have from them. Share that with your team. If there are books that you're reading, share that information with your team. Perhaps you all read together or you participate in learning opportunities together. But role modeling that, really showing your dedication to self-improvement and skill development, you set the tone for others to follow suit. So here's an exercise. This is something that you can do. This is something you could do with your teams. Share a time when you failed. What did you learn? This could be at the start of a meeting, right? One of your rituals could be having a question to start off your meeting, and here you go. Here's another question you could ask. What is one challenge you overcame and succeeded? So here are a couple of exercises that you can take back to your team. Shifting to a growth mindset as a leader and team, it builds resilience and leads to more transformative growth. Now let's explore the third key, adopting a strengths-based approach. This approach leads to higher engagement and more effective collaboration on your team. This is one of my former teams, and it's great when you can come in and embrace a people first mentality. You have some rituals. Here's one of our rituals, getting together annually for the holidays and having a potluck, playing games, doing a secret Santa. It's also great to step into a growth mindset, learn and grow together. And so it's great to see that innovation, engagement, and resilience on your team. And how does this also have a ripple effect on the rest of the organization? How do you know that you're making an impact beyond just the team? Because this is all about performance at the end of the day, right? Seeing better performance, seeing us reach our outcomes and goals and beyond, getting better results. So with this learning and development team, here are a few key metrics that we looked at that had a ripple effect on the rest of the organization. So for us, we had an engagement survey with this organization annually, and there was a specific question talking about professional development opportunities. In 2019, when we first started this work, we were at about 61% favorable. So individuals choosing 4 or 5 out of 5. That's the favorability for engagement with professional development opportunities. And 4 or 5 years later, we saw that increase to 83% favorable, and that's the entire organization. We also looked at satisfaction with learning programming. How satisfied are individuals? In 2019, 3.19 out of 5. And then 4 years later, we saw that increase to 4.2 out of 5. So that was a 41% improvement. And then we looked at participation in learning programming across the organization. And we use what we call saturation rate. So what percentage of our organization is participating in elective learning opportunities? We were at 67% in 2021. And 2 years later, that bumped up to 84%. So we saw 25% increase. So this just shows you how the work that you do with your team can have a ripple effect on the metrics, results, outcomes that you're trying to get for the rest of the organization, for your customers, for your clients. So let's step into this strengths-based place. And I want you can write this down, you can think about this. What are your top strengths? What are the things that bring you joy, that energize you, that maybe you have a natural talent around? Now I want you to think about your weaknesses, those things that maybe are more draining for you, or they're gaps or deficits, areas of opportunity, or they weaken you. What's that experience like? Thinking about your strengths versus your weaknesses. When you thought about your strengths, was it easy to come up with a list, or was that more challenging? Was it easier to come up with your weaknesses or your deficits? Did you notice any changes in your how you felt? Was one more stressful than the other? Did your body have a reaction to one or the other? Did you feel happier when you were writing down your strengths versus your weaknesses? I love the definition that Marcus Buckingham uses when he talks about strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, he defines as things that strengthen you, and weaknesses are those things that weaken you. And with a strengths based philosophy, the idea behind that is that we put more effort, more focus on building and strengthening and developing our strengths. It doesn't mean that we ignore our weaknesses or overlook our weaknesses. We just use more of that strengths based approach to help overcome them or work with other individuals that have strengths that overcome our weaknesses and deficits. And there's a lot of research behind this. Gallup has some great research on a strengths based approach and philosophy. And what's so great about the focus on strengths is they provide energy. They bring us more joy. They're more motivating and inspirational. But sometimes strengths are invisible. They come so naturally to us that we don't always know how to articulate them. So doing assessments can be really helpful in that space. Gallup has a great assessment. When you're channeling what you're good at, what strengths you and what makes you unique, it increases engagement. And I love this quote. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. So instead of trying to be good or mediocre at 20 to 25 things, what if we really focused on being excellent, incredible at 5 or 6 different things? And when leaders, this is some great data. I think that is really important to share. This is from Gallup. When leadership focuses on strengths, the odds of an employee being engaged, they soar to 73%. So about 3 in 4 individuals, the likeliness of them being engaged when there's a focus on strength is so much higher. When a leader doesn't focus on strength, the likeliness that an employee will be engaged bumps down to 9%, or 1 in 11 people. So I think it's really important to note is that it has such a direct tie-in to your engagement as a leader and to the individuals on your team being engaged. So what does it really mean to adopt this strengths-based approach? And I'd mention it means focusing our efforts on leveraging, identifying the strengths, talents, and capabilities of ourselves and of our team. Doesn't mean we ignore or overlook our weaknesses, but we're not going to put the majority of our efforts for growth towards those deficit spaces. Instead, we look to leverage the strengths that we have to help move us forward and overcome the weaknesses. And we collaborate with others who have strengths that help us overcome our gaps. And when we adopt this method, we encourage personal and professional growth by recognizing and building on these strengths, which is it enhances motivation and enhances engagement. It improves overall performance. And this positive focus, it aims to maximize the potential among individuals and among the team as a whole, which just creates a more productive and fulfilling work environment, really. And so what are some strategies to step in to this more strengths-based leadership approach? One of the strategies that I highly recommend is having specific separate conversations with each of your employees around their professional development, career development. I know sometimes these get mixed in with one-on-one conversations, but in my experience, separating these out, what I recommend is quarterly. If you can have quarterly conversations with each one of your staff members where it's just talking about professional development and career development. What are their goals? What's their learning plan? What did they learn over the last quarter? How are they applying what they learned? Quarterly might seem like a lot. You might have a lot of direct reports. So maybe biannually, at least once a year, have these deliberate, intentional conversations about your team's professional and career development. Use assessment tools. I'd mentioned Gallup has Clifton Strengths tool. That's a great one for uncovering talents. Insights Discovery, those are also great tools for uncovering communication strengths, relationship strengths. There's a lot of assessment tools that are out there. Those are ones I might recommend that you start with to really start creating a shared language among your team when it comes to strengths and helping people to articulate what those strengths are. And then the other recommendation that I would have is having dedicated time with your team. I think if you can have one day every quarter where you get together either virtually or in person and have dedicated team learning time. What I've done in the past is spend about half the day on strategy, problem solving, brainstorming, and then the other half of the day is really around team learning, could be utilizing one of these assessment tools, coming together. How do we better use our strengths as a team? How do we shift work, reshuffle what we're doing? So we're really maximizing that strength potential of the team. So having dedicated team retreats, you might call them something else. I know sometimes the word retreat doesn't land well with everyone, but just having a half day or one day, quarter, biannually, at least biannually, where it's just time to connect, to build the relationship, to build the trust, and also to grow and learn together. Those are the 3 keys that becoming the leader your team wants to follow. Embrace a people-first mentality by using that SAM model, see others, adjust efforts, measure impact, taking care of yourself, real self-care, and establishing rituals or traditions with your team. You can build more authentic connections, empathy, and trust. Lean into a growth mindset by admitting mistakes, asking for feedback, and role modeling continuous improvement. This fosters a positive learning culture and enhances resilience on your team. Utilize strengths assessment tools, engage in frequent professional development conversations, and schedule team learning time. This approach leads to highly engaged and collaborative teams. By implementing these strategies, you will create an engaged, collaborative, and resilient team and a positive workplace culture, inspiring and empowering your team to achieve their best. So, it is time to move to action. What will you do next? Use the SAM model to see others as people. Establish a team ritual, such as a once-a-month lunch, celebration Fridays. Ask your team for feedback. Role model continuous learning by sharing your key takeaways from this recording. Scheduling professional development conversations biannually or quarterly. Plan a team retreat. Use an assessment tool such as Clifton Strengths. I want you to pause this and choose 3 things that you can commit to in the next 3 weeks. Then block time off on your calendar to do this. I leave you with this final quote. We are all works in progress, and it's up to us to be deliberate about our growth. And when we learn new and better ways of thinking and being and doing, it's our responsibility to stretch ourselves and do better. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me directly via email. I have several additional resources related to the 3 keys I mentioned that I am happy to share. I really just scratched the surface with those 3. So email me, let me know which key you want to dig into first, and I will send you some resources and recommendations. Thanks for joining me today. I wish you well on your continued leadership journey.